Welcome back, everybody. So we are going to begin our discussion of morality. Morality is the area of philosophy, the inquiry in philosophy that discusses exactly what it sounds like, the morality of actions. While it's the case that our discussion of Descartes' Meditations on First Philosophy or Locke's ideas on epistemology are not going to impact your day-to-day lives, the discussion of morality actually might. This is sort of the exception. Morality is a discussion of the activities we perform every day, whether we ought to be doing them. And we face moral dilemmas every single day. Sometimes they're easy moral dilemmas. Sometimes it's simple, like, should I, pull over and pummel that guy that cut me off on the interstate? The answer is no, you should not. That's just not something that we need to be doing. That's an easy one. But we have harder ones. Should I remove my mother from life support because the doctors say she's never going to wake up? That's a slightly more challenging one. And in this day and age where we have issues like euthanasia and abortion and homosexual marriage and the legality of drug use, we are confronted with these decisions. And so a discussion of morality is going to inform your lives in ways that maybe some of the other material we discuss is not going to. So we start with a discussion of a moral theory. What is a moral theory? Because as we move through our discussion of morality, we are going to be focusing on moral theories. So a moral theory is an account of why an action is right or wrong, or why a person's character is good or bad. Okay, so if you think murder is wrong, and I kind of hope you do, if you think murder is wrong, what about murder makes it wrong? Is it the consequences of the action? Is it the action itself? If telling the truth is right, what about telling the truth is right? Is it the consequences? Is it the action? Is it something entirely different? What makes a person a good person? What makes a person a bad person? If I say that is not a good person, what am I really saying? What characteristics does that person lack, preventing him or her from being a good person? So we're going to be looking at our options in regards to this. So remember the Socratic Method. Okay, our question is, what makes an action right or wrong? And each one of the theories we look at is going to be an attempt to answer that question. It's going to be an attempt to give a response, and we're going to examine it just as Socrates examined the responses that he received. Now, the discussion of moral theories, the discussion of morality in general, is about normative claims. Normative claims are claims about how things ought to be. Okay? I want you to focus on this word ought. How things ought to be. When we are discussing morality, when we're discussing the morality of a particular action, we're talking about what people should do or what people ought to do. Okay, so words like ought and should are very common words in normative claims. This is contrasted with descriptive claims. Descriptive claims describe how things are. Okay, so our descriptive claims are claims that are describing things, how things are. We can say a lot about ethics in descriptive terms, okay? It is the case that people murder. It is the case that people tell the truth. It is the case that people lie. But when we engage in that descriptive manner, we aren't doing philosophical morality. We're doing descriptive ethics. We are simply giving an account of how things are. We're explaining to people what things actually occur. This is an activity for sociology, for anthropology, for psychology. All legitimate fields of study, just not what philosophers do. We are focused on the normative claim. It is the case that people murder, descriptive claim, but it ought not to be the case that people murder. People ought not to murder. People ought to tell the truth. People ought not to lie. So you're seeing the difference between these two claims. We are going to focus on what people ought to do. As we move through our moral theories and our discussion, we're going to see that some people want to take the descriptive, say this is how things are, thus it is how things ought to be. That's not obviously true. So that's one of the things we're going to discuss when we encounter those sorts of situations. The fact that things are a way does not entail that they ought to be that way. Or at least, maybe I should say, the fact that things are a certain way does not obviously entail that they ought to be the way. So we're going to look at that, again, as we discuss our theories. Does that make sense?